What's up, everybody? GeauxBurns doing a breakdown of the Mafia 3 at PAX West panel, creating the open world of New Bordeaux. And if I happen to find the full version, I will link it below in the description section. Now, bear in mind, it's off Twitch, so not exactly the best video quality, as you may or may not notice in some of the screenshots that I will feature in this video. Yeah, I wish the quality was a little bit better, but that's live streaming for you. However, like I said, if I do find the full hour-length version of the Mafia 3 PAX West panel, I will definitely link it below in the description section. Now, I'm already broke this up in half because earlier I did a video concerning what happened at the end of the Mafia 3 PAX West panel, which was a pretty big deal, the post-launch content. So if you want to check out that video, along with all my other Mafia 3 videos, you can find it in the Mafia 3 playlist right there. All right, so let's get to the panel. It opened with the heist trailer, which we already know about. I already did a breakdown, also featured in my Mafia playlist. After the trailer, there was the panel with Hayden Blackman, Andy Wilson, Bill Harms of Hangar 13, and they answered a lot of questions. Some of the stuff we already know about, and there's actually some new information too. Now, they discussed Hangar 13 being built from the ground up, and the fact that Mafia 3 is actually being made by two development houses, Hangar 13 and 2K Chech. Now, 2K Chech, you may know if you're a Mafia 2 fan, because they're the ones that made Mafia 2. So everybody that was afraid of Mafia 3 not being in the right hands, you can rest easy because you got Hangar 13 and 2K Chech working on Mafia 3, getting it ready for launch in October. And from what I heard at the panel, it's just about done with the exception of a little bit of polishing. Now, some of the things that they discussed in the panel involved inspiration, predominantly the city of New Orleans, which is heavily what New Bordeaux is based on. And another character, which I actually discuss in my Sal Marcano backstory video, Carlos Marcello, who was a big-time kingpin, Don, godfather of New Orleans. So those were two big inspirations for Mafia 3. Now, what they were trying to go for is a balance regarding New Bordeaux. Authenticity, as well as elements that are not exactly 100% accurate, because video games, right? And they also are trying to play on the diversity of New Orleans, the fact that it has a French-Spanish history, architecture, as well as many cultures, Africans, Italians, Spanish, French, Irish, etc., Haitians. You get the idea. So New Orleans, in reality, is a very, very diverse city, and it's been that way for hundreds of years. It's one of the oldest cities in America. It's absolutely beautiful as it is historic. Then, of course, Blackman hinted about the cuisine of New Orleans playing a role in New Bordeaux, obviously. And he also hinted at this gumbo scene. So look forward to that in Mafia 3. There's going to be a gumbo scene. And in case you're wondering what gumbo is, it's kind of like a soup or a stew. And it's absolutely delicious, especially like a crawfish gumbo or a seafood gumbo. Yeah, I'm getting carried away. I'm kind of hungry. It's late. I'm going to have to get some dinner after this. Maybe gumbo. Nice. Actually, the problem is it's hard for me to get gumbo because there's only like one or two really good places where I live that actually has gumbo worthy of consuming. The rest kind of suck. Anyway, so continuing, he also discussed the liberties that they took, from fact to fiction. For example, in real life, New Orleans is flat, and New Bordeaux has some elevated areas, as you will notice in October. Another area from reality to fiction is the French Quarter. The French Quarter is a very tight area because it's very old. Now in Mafia 3, the French Ward is not as tight or confined as the French Quarter is in real life. Another thing is canals. Now you may have noticed from the heist trailer that there are canals in Mafia 3, and they run throughout the entire city, well, underneath the city of New Bordeaux. That's not exactly a reality. There aren't any canals underneath New Orleans, at least none that we know of. And the cool thing about the canals is not only can you get around in the canals, I think you can also have access to the hideouts according to the panel. Now, the other thing they talked about is New Bordeaux having a feel like it is a main character in Mafia 3 with distinct districts along with the criminal ecology. And the setting is also very important. 1968, which was a very tumultuous year. You had two major assassinations take place in the United States. Martin Luther King Jr. and, of course, Robert F. Kennedy, who was running for president at the time. You had the civil rights movement, you had riots, you had the Vietnam War raging, along with the criminality that was going on in New Orleans, which obviously is making the transition over to New Bordeaux and Mafia 3, which includes gambling, numbers running, prostitution, business extortion, moonshining, smuggling, drugs, etc. And then they talked about the Criminal Rackets trailer, which we've already saw a few days ago. So they played the Criminal Rackets trailer, which obviously I already did a trailer breakdown for as well, linked in the playlist, in case you were wondering. And then they came back from the trailer and they started talking about what Lincoln's goals were, which were twofold. One is tearing down the Sal Marcano crime family, and B, building his own thing. And the options you're going to have going into all the districts and the rackets involve, playing it the way you want to. You can either go in guns blazing, or you can go in stealth mode. And the motto of Hangar 13 is that there's no failure except for death. And that's how they're playing Mafia 3. You don't have to be stealthy in this one mission or guns blazing in that mission. You can play it however you wish, however you desire. As long as you don't die, you can accomplish the mission. That's basically the gist of what Mafia 3 is going to be about when it comes to your freedom to make choices down to that level. And you're also going to be able to interrogate informants. By doing so, you will gain valuable information, including possibly secret entrances, which is very helpful if you wish to go in the stealth approach. So basically what they're building is an open world with player choice, which I think is awesome. And I feel like that goes hand in hand. I think the best open world games have that, where you have that freedom to make various choices, to play the game the way you want to. And it also adds to replayability, so you can play it the first time stealthy, and then the second time, maybe you just want to go in guns blazing, or maybe you just want to do a little half and half. Whatever you prefer. That's one thing I like about it. And then, of course, they discussed the districts. Now, a lot of stuff about the districts we already know about, but there's a bit of new information. First off, they started with the largest district in the game, which is the Bayou, set just south of New Bordeaux. Now, this is obviously very atmospheric, and it has gators. We haven't learned about any other wildlife, so I don't know if there's any other wildlife in the game besides alligators. And one other interesting thing, going back from reality to works of fiction, is that it takes like an hour in real life to go from New Orleans down to the Bayou. So what they did at Hangar 13 was they basically moved the Bayou a lot closer to New Bordeaux. Because, it makes sense for a video game. So it's obviously a lot closer in the video game than it is in real life by comparison. The next district they discussed was Delray Hollow. This is obviously Lincoln's home, as well as home to Sammy Robinson, Ellis, the Black Mob, the Haitians. And after, Sal Marcano betrays Sammy and murders the Black Mob, he puts the Dixie Mob in charge of Delray Hollow, which causes a lot of bad things to happen. The next district that was discussed is River Row, perhaps one of the worst districts in the game, and this is also where you will find Vito. And after the events of Mafia 2, when he's exiled to New Bordeaux, Sal gives him River Row, and basically he's just barely scratching out a living. He's been sidelined for the past 17 years, and his office is above a small seafood restaurant, which I believe is called Benny's. And I think I featured that in a New Bordeaux Tribune article a few months ago. And, not only does he run the restaurant, he also cooks. And what's very interesting, according to the panel, is that his office has a window which overlooks the water. And on the other side of the water, this river, which is probably the Mississippi River, you see downtown and the French Ward, a constant reminder of what Vito does not have. This, these pieces of pie just dangled right in front of him, teasing him, taunting him, while he's barely making it in River Row. While on the other side, you got all the wealth, all the luxury, all that money flowing through downtown and the French Ward. So I'm sure, Vito's probably not very happy about that. The next district they discussed was South Downs. Now, this is where a lot of the victimless crimes take place, including, I believe, the cage fighting, as well as a lot of stolen goods, probably like cars and other items magically disappearing throughout South Downs. The other district is Barclay Mills. This is the industrial area, and it's mentioned that the mob also control the garbage collection company. And I think Andy chimed in about something really dark regarding Barclay Mills that we'll just have to find out in Mafia 3. Something really, really bad apparently is happening in Barclay Mills. But, I mean, that's probably par for the course for most of the districts in New Bordeaux. The next district is the downtown district. This is basically the heart of the city. It is where you see a lot of government and construction fraud going on. And it's actually the very first district that Hangar 13 started building. So that's very fascinating. Another district, which is probably right beside downtown, I believe, is the French Ward. It is an iconic district. It is the most packed. It is run by Lou Marcano, Sal Marcano's brother. And a lot of things going on. All the criminal activities are usually hidden in plain sight. And a lot of stuff that happens in the French Ward involves prostitution. So that's probably a pretty big thing that's happening down in the French Ward. The next district is Tickfall Harbor. Now, technically, New Bordeaux is not really what you would consider to be a port city like Los Angeles, which is right on the ocean. However, it is on the river, and the river leads out to the ocean. So technically, New Bordeaux is a port city, and Tickfall Harbor is the port. This is where you see the shipping being controlled by the mob. And it's a great place, apparently, to go and blow up a lot of shit. That's what they said in the panel. And, of course, there's car theft rings, smuggling of gasoline, plus an Easter egg. So if you can find the Easter egg in this image, let me know below in the comments section. I'm not going to help you. You're going to have to help yourself. So I want to see if you guys can find the Easter egg. Good luck. And Godspeed. All right, so the next district is Point Verdun. This is the Irish district where a lot of moonshine and illegal liquor sales transpire. And it's also the district that was once under the control of Burke, who is one of your lieutenants in Mafia 3. The next district is perhaps the wealthiest of the wealthy, the Frisco Fields district. This is the rich enclave. It has the universities, the mansions. And what's interesting is in the interview during the panel is that at the very bottom of Frisco Fields is kind of a poor region of Frisco Fields. Now, in the bottom area is where you have a lot of the employees of the well-to-do. These are the maids, the butlers, etc. And they live down at the very bottom of the Frisco Fields district. Now, as you move up the district, you see it get wealthier and prettier, until you reach the northern part where that's, I guess, all the mansions and all the well-to-dos, including Sal Marcano, head of the Marcano crime family. Now, another thing that they talked about that was really interesting was police response being much higher in Frisco Fields and in certain other districts. So they have this system called persistent police. Each district has a certain amount of police response. Like in Delray Hollow, the police don't exactly respond as quickly or as persistently if a crime is being committed in Delray Hollow as a crime being committed up in Frisco Fields. So it's going to be interesting to see how the New Bordeaux police affect each district when it comes to the crime and trying to escape the law. And it also makes each district a little bit more difficult than the other. Now, obviously, it's probably easier to break the law, commit a crime, and escape the fuzz in Delray Hollow then it's going to be in Frisco Fields, which obviously adds a lot of challenge to Mafia 3. The third act of the panel involved the characters, and specifically the sit-down, which I kind of like made a little montage of a collage of images from the specific sit-down that is in the video for the panel, which I hopefully found a good quality version of somewhere on YouTube. Hopefully somebody found that and posted it. I was tempted to, but like I said, the audio that I got echoed for some reason. I must have had something set wrong. My bad. All right, so the sit-down is obviously a very important part of Mafia 3. This is where Lincoln sits down with his lieutenants, Vito, Cassandra, and Burke, and they decide, who gets what. So every time you take over a racket or a district. Now, this is something that Vashon brought up concerning my Q&A series. And see, DHG and I were both of the mindset originally that it was simply just districts that you would divvy out. We were wrong, DHG. I know, that's very rare. But here it is. You have districts. They're at the top. And ultimately, you take that over, and you can hand that over to one of your 3 lieutenants. But you also hand over each racket within the district to one of your 3. So you can hand over District A to Burke, but you can give like racket 1 to Vito, racket 2 to Cassandra, etc. So it's obviously going to be a lot more complex than I originally realized. And I actually think that's pretty cool. I think it's awesome that it's going to become a lot more complicated to divvy up the districts, because my idea was to, give a couple districts here, a couple districts there, and a couple of districts over here and try and do even Steven and keep all 3 happy. I thought it was going to be that simple, but it's not. And that's something I think I really love about this game, because you're going to have to pick and choose. Okay, who gets this racket? Who gets that racket? Should I try and give them all the same racket in the same districts, or should I try and divvy it up? And then you put somebody in charge of the district, that may have not gotten a racket. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. Going to make it a lot more complicated. So the video they showed, the sit down, involved Vito specifically, and he was pissed because whoever did the gameplay for the sit down had been getting more territory to Burke and Cassandra and kind of sidestepping Vito. I mean, who would do that? What kind of Mafia fan are you to be doing that to poor Vito? Really? Okay, but anyways, Vito was pissed off at Lincoln. I mean, Vito was like, hey, you owe me. I'm part of this, and I'm being sidelined, and you better give this over to me. You better do what's right, or there's going to be consequences. I mean, Vito was pissed, and there was also scenes where he looked kind of sad at the same time. And, of course, Cassandra didn't really give two shits. She's like, look, I don't give a crap for Scaletta. I don't really like the idea of you giving it to him, but I only have like half control of the district anyway, so it really doesn't matter to me. And then, Burke. Burke was being a real douche to Vito. He was like, yeah, good. I'm glad you're sticking it to Vito. You're doing the right thing, boy. Laddie, I think he said Laddie. Anyways, because he's Irish, obviously. But anyway, so there's really no love lost between these 3 characters. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So ultimately, they each show you what they're offering if you give them the racket or the district. And every time it would go back to Vito, he would have some other comment, being all pissed off and like, yeah, you better do right by me, Lincoln. Yeah, you need to do right by me. And so they had several different lines, and then there was one line where Burke was like, Sammy raised you right, So he was assuming that, by, complimenting Sammy, that Vito would, give the property, the racket, the district over to Burke. But anyways, long story short, Vito ended up getting the district, and so that made Vito happy. He was like, thank you, you made things right between us. And then, of course, they each said something, parting ways, like, okay, well, I'm glad that's over with. I'm going to go, meet up with a chick and, have a drink. That's what Burke was going to do. Then Cassandra's like, okay, I'm out. I'll see you guys later. And then they adjourned the meeting until the next sit down. So that's kind of sort of how the sit down went. And apparently what you're going to be doing is managing an uneasy alliance between Vito, Burke, and Cassandra. Basically, it's what they called multiple positives, because each of these lieutenants offer you something, in return for giving them the racket or the district. And what you can do is, if you continue to give Vito more districts, or Cassandra, or Burke, then you start actually leveling up and upgrading their lieutenant abilities. So, like with Vito, he has the ability to send in a hit squad with you, and if you give him more stuff, more territory, then that upgrades the hit squad as well. So that's going to be a very cool facet, along with everything else you'll be able to do in Mafia 3. Once again, adding a lot of replayability to this game. So you could go through trying to play even Steven like I'm going to do in the Let's Play. Well, the first Let's Play I do. And then you can just be a dick and say, you know what, fuck y'all, I'm all about Cassandra. Then the next one, Burke, you're my boy. And then the other one's like, you know, it's all about Vito, baby, all about Vito. And just see how it just plays out that way. And of course, you know, Lincoln, you know, three people that don't really like each other very much. You're going to see how that dynamic plays out. And apparently the lieutenants will actually remember districts or rackets that you gave out. Like Cassandra's going to remember if you gave this out to Vito or Burke instead of her. She's going to remind you, say, hey, you gave them this and this. What about me? You know, you only gave me like half control of this district, so I really don't care anyways. So that's going to be another factor, the reality that these characters will remember your actions during the sit-downs. And then the final part of the panel was basically already covered, as I already mentioned, in my post-launch content video, which once again is linked in the playlist, along with all my Mafia 3 content. So I'm extremely excited now about Mafia 3. I thought I was already excited, but a lot of really good information came out courtesy of the Mafia 3 PAX West panel. Hopefully I found a link to a really good quality video regarding the entire 1 hour panel at PAX West. If I didn't, I apologize, and hopefully my breakdown of the panel covered almost all the bases. But I'm only human as far as I know. I may have missed one or two things. Anyway, so what are you excited about concerning the information that was revealed at the Mafia 3 PAX West panel? If you watched it as well and I happen to miss something, feel free and let us know below in the comment section. And Mafia 3 is only a few weeks away. October 7th. That's when it's coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC.